From Mickey Mouse to Winnie the Pooh, here are 10 popular cartoons banned worldwide. The Simpsons is one of the most popular animated series in the world. Broadcast since 1989, it has a total of over 700 episodes. The Simpsons is also known for its many scenes that apparently predict the future, but we'll talk instead about those that have led to censorship. For example, episode 15 of season 13, where the Simpsons go to Rio de Janeiro, and which provoked the anger of Brazilians, and more specifically, that of the local tourist board. Indeed, Rio's tourist board tried everything to prohibit the broadcasting of this episode, which according to him damaged the reputation of the city. And if you follow The Simpsons, you probably know that the show exploits the comedy of stereotypes to the fullest, when the episodes take place in exotic locations. But in the episode of the trip to Rio, the producers went even further. The city of Rio is painted as a criminal hell, infested by monkeys and rats, and where kidnappings are frequent. The tourist board did not support such an abominable publicity, and therefore threatened to sue the American group Fox, without however taking action, because the right to parody is protected by the First Amendment of the American Constitution. But the threat was enough, since the executive producer of The Simpsons apologized to all Brazilians, while proposing, in case that wasn't enough, a boxing match between Homer Simpson and the Brazilian head of state. It should be known that the tourist office Rioter had invested $18 million to promote the city of Rio, a few years before the broadcasting of this episode which, according to the statements of the office, has ruined its promotional campaign. Now everyone recognizes the exclusively humorous scope of this episode. Besides, The Simpsons did not spare other countries, like Japan, which took a lot of money. What could be more friendly and cute than Winnie the Pooh? However, this little character with a big heart, from childhood literature, is in a way an enemy of the state in China. Yes, the Chinese government has set itself the mission of preventing the adorable little teddy bear from appearing on screens or on the internet, simply because following several parodies, Winnie the Pooh is associated with President Xi Jinping. This parody was born after the meeting of Xi Jinping and Barack Obama. The two leaders were compared to Winnie and his friend Tigger. The image was all the rage at the time and inspired many Chinese internet users, who did not hesitate to add to it, to the great dismay of the government. But this wave of parody has been stemmed by censorship. On Weibo, China's equivalent of Twitter, searching for Winnie the Pooh yields illegal content as a result, and in 2015, an image showing Xi Jinping on military parade and Winnie the Pooh in a cart was the most censored image of the year. But this war waged by the regime on the little bear is doomed to failure, because the more relentless the repression, the funnier the joke. The government, on the other hand, continues its censorship unabated. Recently, officials demanded the closure of the TikTok account of singer Liu Keqing, who was accused of image violation because he also looks like the president. You have certainly already watched Shrek II, which remains one of the biggest successes in the history of cinema, to the point of becoming, 3 days after its release, the most profitable film ever made. In short, this animated film has conquered the entire planet, except for one person, a singer to be precise, and the reason for this is, to say the least, far-fetched. This singer is Israeli, and his stage name is David Dorr. He has the particularity of being a countertenor, in other words, he has the highest male vocal range. When the animated film Shrek II was released in Israel, he did everything to ban it. One scene in the film, dubbed in Hebrew, had offended him. This scene showed a character threatening to emasculate another character with a line that can be translated as, "Let's make a golden David on him." It's all very simple, but our singer was so offended that he took the matter to court. He judged that this scene, which identified him with a eunuch, would ridicule him forever, and the justice gave him reason. Indeed, the animated film had to be withdrawn from about 20 cinemas, while the mortifying remark was replaced. This trial turned out to the singer's advantage, of course, but the scandal helped to make the joke even more pungent. During the trial, the distributors defended themselves by saying that the singer had once joked in public about his high voice and that therefore there was no real offense. In short, it was really an unfortunate publicity for David Dorr. This story remains anecdotal in the brilliant career of this singer, who has performed in many countries, and who remains a very popular figure in his country. Let's go back in time and talk about a cartoon that appeared in 1938, A Cannibal Feast. In 1938, the colonization of Africa was in full swing, and the producers of this cartoon, withdrawn from public broadcasting since 1968, had wanted to create a cartoon on this theme. Their goal was to entertain at the expense of the natives, who are portrayed in the most caricatured way possible. Indeed, the native characters of this cartoon have dark skin, are half naked, and have lips so big that they occupy the lower third of the head, and finally, they do not hesitate to boil white men in a pot. In short, you get the picture. Still, the public of the time was not shocked by this type of humor, quite the contrary, and the producers were praised. But in 1968, this cartoon, which relayed the most dubious ethnic clichés, was withdrawn from syndication by the distribution company United Artists and was never again broadcast on the small screen. In Indonesia, they don't joke about violent scenes, even in cartoons. SpongeBob Squarepants was one of them. Indeed, the Indonesian Broadcasting Association (KPI) undertook to censor SpongeBob Squarepants, the movie, which appeared in 2004. After the broadcast, the KPI issued several warnings to the GTV television channel, saying that some scenes, such as the rabbits fighting, trivialize violence and could lead to aggressive behavior by children. Since then, all incriminating scenes have been removed from subsequent broadcasts. However, the entire film is still widely available on the internet, and many children have likely been able to watch this famous rabbit war, despite the censorship. Onward is an animated film produced by Pixar and features a female lead character. The creators had decided that it would be a Cyclops unicorn. Wanting to mark a historical blow in the Mickey firm, by putting in scene a character expressly homosexual, they had decided that the unicorn would be lesbian. Not ostensibly, of course, but in a way that is not equivocal. Indeed, Officer Spectre, the unicorn, utters this line: "It's not easy being a young parent. My girlfriend's daughter makes me pull my hair out. It's hard to be less ambiguous." In any case, the film was quite successful, and the press reviews were generally positive. The problem is that this line that we have just quoted has posed a problem in some countries that are very intransigent on the issue of homosexuality. In Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Oman, the whole film was censored, not just the line, as was the case in Russia. It is clear that the Saudis were not the audience to conquer anyway, and this ban had no impact on Pixar. Created in 1928, Mickey Mouse is probably the most famous cartoon character of all time, and in any case the most emblematic of Walt Disney. In the 30s, Walt Disney's masterpiece was already broadcast in many European countries, including Romania. But the Romanian authorities, in fact, did not look favorably on the broadcasting of this program, and they did not hesitate to censor it, in 1935. The reason is amusing, to say the least. It has nothing to do with possible international political tensions, nor with scenes considered shocking or violent. No, none of that. The authorities censored Mickey Mouse simply because a mouse that big was supposed to scare children. The famous Disney movie was therefore banned from theaters. But in defense of the authorities, we must also put this ban in context, and say that the 3-meter wide screens were something quite new in the country. The authorities were afraid that a gigantic rodent would terrify children who were not used to the cinema. However, the decision to ban may have been the wrong one, as Romania deprived the young audience of a monumental masterpiece. Cow and Chicken, produced by David Feiss and broadcast between 1997 and 1999, is a colorful series, to say the least. It follows the hilarious and burlesque adventures of a chicken and a cow, who are brother and sister. Cow and Chicken is easily accessible worldwide, except in India, and you can guess the reason. Indians, faithful to the traditions of Hinduism, consider cows to be sacred. This veneration is so strong that in one state of northwestern India, killing a cow is punishable by a life sentence. Now, in this cartoon, Cow is a hysterical and vulgar cow, with oversized teats, which allow her to squirt milk at will. In short, for an Indian, you can't do more horrible. So the Indian authorities made sure that this series could not reach the local audience. And it is quite understandable, because this cartoon goes very far in the grotesque and the sordid, with its two characters, to the point that one wonders if it is really intended for children. Today, there are certainly very few people in India aware of the existence of Cow and Chicken, and it's not bad for them. Tom and Jerry is one of the most famous cartoons ever created and has been a worldwide success ever since. This cartoon, released in 1940, has delighted children from all over the world, and appealed to everyone, with few exceptions. Salah Abdul Sadiq, the Egyptian leader, is one of the exceptions, because, if it were up to him, he would definitely ban the broadcasting of this cartoon which, according to him, promotes violence and gives bloodthirsty ideas to impressionable children. This leader, who is the head of the General Information Organization in Egypt, does not hesitate to make this opinion heard, to say the least, original, in a conference at Cairo University. It must be recognized that his argument is not unfounded, because the hostilities between Tom and Jerry have no limits. The two are constantly trying to kill each other with knives, axes, explosives, and iron, to name but a few. Salah Abdul Sadiq's indictment was also supported by an article in an Egyptian daily newspaper, which published a long analysis of the alleged dangers of this cartoon. However, if the Egyptian leader was able to convince some people, we must also admit that he was ridiculed more than anything else. A member of the government who puts on the back of Tom and Jerry the problems of delinquency, and the extremist drifts of the radicalized young people, it is rather daring. In any case, he has no choice but to learn to tolerate this cartoon which, despite its many violent scenes, has rocked the childhood of millions of children. That's it, that's the end of this video. Thanks for following us. Feel free to tell us in comments which of these censorships amused you the most and which one shocked you the most.